right, I am going to do a 2-color brioche. The first thing I have to do is cast on an odd number of stitches, which I've done. And now I have to do a setup row. And you just use one color, so you'll designate either color A or color B. This is going to be my color B, stands for black, and I'm going to begin my setup row. Begins easily enough. You simply knit the first stitch. Then you bring the yarn forward between the 2 needles. Then you slip the next stitch purlwise as if you're going to purl. And now with that yarn that you had brought forward previously, you're simply going to use it as a yarn over and knit the next stitch. And now I'm going to continue. I'm going to do a yarn over. Yarn forward, bringing the yarn in between the 2 stitches, slipping the next stitch purlwise, and now I'm doing the yarn over, and I will knit the next stitch. So again, I'm bringing my yarn forward, slipping the next stitch purlwise. Now I'm using that yarn to make a yarn over, so it's cast over the needle, and knitting the next stitch. And this is kind of what it looks like. There you can see my knit stitch, there's the slip stitch with the yarn over it, and then again a knit stitch. And you'll do this till the end of the row. This is what my row looks like. And the most important thing to do at the end is do not turn your needle. For example, normally you go like so to begin knitting on this side. When you're knitting brioche, at least in this step, you're going to keep it all this way, but because we're on a circular or in some cases a double point, I'm sliding it to the other end. And now I'm going to begin this row on this side. So the yarn that I finish knitting will be on my left, and I will begin knitting here. Now I'm all set up for row 1, and this time I'm going to use color A, which in my case is aqua. And we're going to do something called a brioche purl. And in that case, you're purling together the yarn over along with the regular stitch, the regular purl stitch. That's the difference between a regular purl and a brioche purl. So let's start. First, I am going to slip this stitch. And again, I'm going to do it purlwise. Now I'm going to grab my yarn. I'm going to hold it with the left hand until I get started. I'm bringing it forward because I want to do a purl. So I'm going to grab these 2 stitches, the yarn over along with the stitch it's paired with, and do a purl. From there, what I'm going to do is slip the next stitch and do a yarn over. And this time, because the next stitch I want to do is another brioche purl, I'm not only doing a yarn over, but I'm bringing it all the way around to the front. And now I am poised to do my brioche purl, which is this yarn over along with a regular stitch. Again, I'm going to slip the next stitch, do a yarn over, which in this case is around the entire needle, and I'm all ready to do a brioche purl again. So this row really is quite simple. All it is slip 1, do your yarn over, which requires you bringing it around the needle all the way forward again, and then go ahead and do that brioche purl. So again, I'm slipping yarn over and around and through the 2 needles, and then there's your brioche purl. Okay, the last 2 stitches of this row, you're going to do a brioche purl, and then you're going to slip 1. And at this point, after the end of row 1, you do turn your work. Okay, I'm ready for row 2. This time, both my yarns are in the same spot at the beginning of the needle. I'm going to just be using the black yarn, which is color B in my case. And again, we're basically beginning easily enough again. We're going to purl the first stitch. From there, you're going to slip the yarn again, purlwise. And again, you're going to do a yarn over, which is bringing it around the needle, around the needle and through the 2 needles, because you're going to do another brioche purl. This time it's a little easier to see because it's 1 aqua yarn and 1 black yarn purled together. So again, you're going to slip the next yarn, do your yarn over, and brioche purl them together. Slip purlwise, yarn over, and brioche purl together. Okay, I'm on row 2, and these are my last 2 stitches. And what I'm going to do here is simply slip this stitch, do my yarn over, and just purl the last stitch. And this is the end of row 2, and I am not going to turn my work. Okay, I have just finished row 2. My yarn is extending from my work on the left-hand side. I will not be turning my work. I'm simply going to slide it down to the other end. And there, my color A is waiting for me. So from this point, it still doesn't look like too much, but I am going to begin knitting. And I think after the next 2 rows, you'll see a pattern. Again, my color A is extending. It's not exactly on the last stitch, but this is okay. That's where we want it. I'm going to begin slipping the first stitch purlwise. And now I'm going to begin my pattern where I am doing a brioche knit, which is 1 stitch is a yarn over and 1 is a regular stitch. And I'm simply knitting the 2 together. Okay, now I'm going to bring my yarn forward and I'm slipping the next stitch purlwise again. And now I will do a brioche knit. And because my yarn is forward, it will automatically, as I create the stitch, become a yarn over. I'm going to bring my yarn forward again, slip that next stitch, and then again do a brioche knit. And in turn, creating a yarn over. And that's intentional. That's what your instructions say to do. Okay, bringing the yarn forward, doing a slip stitch, yarn over to create the brioche knit. Yarn forward, slipping the next stitch, yarn over, brioche knit. Yarn forward, slip the stitch, yarn over, and brioche knit. This is the end of row 3. I've got 2 stitches left. I've already brought my yarn forward. I'm going to do the yarn over and do the brioche knit of these 2 stitches together, and then I'm going to slip my work. And you may have noticed I said the last 2 stitches when really it was 3, but those 2 stitches for the brioche knit count as 1 stitch. This is the end of row 3, and I will be turning my work. Okay, here is the end of the 3rd row. Both yarns happen to be extending from the needle at this point, and you can see it's starting to look like something. What I'm now going to do is turn my work, and I'm also going to bring both yarns down to my left so I'm ready to start knitting. But of course, I will only be using the black yarn at this point. And the way I'm going to begin is I'm going to knit the first stitch with the black yarn. Okay, I'm going to do a yarn forward, so that means bringing my yarn to the front between the 2 needles. I'm going to slip the next stitch purlwise, and then I'm going to do a yarn over and then brioche knit the next 2 stitches. So again, I'm going to bring my yarn forward, slip the next stitch purlwise, do a yarn over, and brioche knit the next 2 stitches. Yarn forward, slip the next stitch, brioche knit, and at the same time I'm doing a yarn over. Yarn forward, slip the next stitch, here's my yarn over, brioche knitting that next stitch. And again, the brioche knit is the yarn over and regular stitch combination. You're knitting them together. And you will do this until the end of the row. Okay, here are the last 2 stitches of row 4. Doing a yarn forward, I'm going to slip this stitch, do a yarn over, and then knit this last stitch. I will not be turning my work after this row. From here, you'll go back to row 1 and repeat rows 1 through 4.